You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Podbase, Speaker, and more. I'm Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and let me bring in the rest of this team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm calling in this week with my phone due to some weather circumstances, but other than that, doing real good. How are you doing, Miranda?
I am doing well. Dusty, you have predicated that this show is going to be a little bit different this week, not only because of you calling in, but some of our structure and format. Before I get into those details, though, even though this format has changed a little bit this week, we still got the third member of this team, and that's who?
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 It's the one and only Brendan Barr.
Woohoo! Just barely. I'm just barely here, like we were talking about off air. I have been working like crazy this week, so glad to be here.
Yes, we are in an interesting spot. November is a very interesting month for all of us, whether it's work, whether it's relocation, whether it's weather. It's a lot going on. So, as I kind of mentioned just a few moments ago, this episode is going to be a little bit different where we are really going to be hitting on just a few key news items for this week. We're really narrowing it down to just the needs to know as of recording for this week, which is Wednesday. And so if anything happens after that the rest of this week, we won't be able to cover it until next week. But also, though, we are in for a special treat because we also did recently interview someone within the world of professional wrestling who serves in a different role, and that's Martin Carillo, who is the co-owner and founder of Wrestling with Unicorns, which is a really the best way to describe it is a social media account that highlight wrestling matches really from all over the United States. Martin and his brother work together to attend and film matches at independent wrestling promotions and highlight them and help advertise them and the wrestlers themselves. So later on in the show, we have a very fun interview with him and getting to know more about Wrestling with Unicorns, his experience in recording wrestlers, especially luchadors, and, you know, his insights to the current news and happenings in the world of pro wrestling. So that is going to be the second half of the show. But as I mentioned, we still got some news to tell you. We still got the latest and greatest. So for this week, Brendan has super meshed together the road back to shows in Indie Roundup. So, Brendan, what is our super mega Indie Roundup back to shows story this week?
So, it sounds like it's out of order, but it will all make sense. The Crash had a return to holding events. They had a number of matches, which was, but the biggest highlight of that was that we have a new The Crash champion, which is none other than El Hijo de Vikingo. And Bandito congratulated him after the match and was kind of pushing for him to go on ahead into Triple Mania Regia and do good things there. So, like, there we go. It's all wrapped up into one little thing. We're kind of previewing future events where we have a result here, and it's a heck of a one. I'm really excited to see what they do with Vikingo, who they keep touting as the future of this of Lucha Libre. And here he is getting a fairly major championship and being propped up for another opportunity in a major championship.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not the last time you'll hear Hijo de Vikingo on this broadcast,
No.
actually. So
No.
that's a teaser for what you'll hear later on in the show. And the same thing with Crash. We actually have some interesting Crash news that we're going to feature later on in the show. So stay tuned to that. But you know what time it is. We're going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central. And a big thank you to Denise Salcedo bringing us this week's Lucha Central, letting you know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Up next, Dusty has this week in AEW, including a pretty interesting matchup on AEW Dark.
Yeah, on AEW Dark this week, we had Andrade El Idolo versus Warhorse. He made his return to AEW after all this time. He was one of the cool stories of the pandemic. His fans just kind of blew him up on Twitter until he was on AEW. He finally made a return, but if you thought he was going to get his win, he lost against Cody last time. If you were a big Warhorse fan, you thought he was going to get his win back, your dreams were dashed. This was just a big squash, but God, Andrade looked so good in this match. He was just like a tiger. I mean, it was incredible. The thing I noticed in this match, when you watch Andrade wrestle, and I noticed it so much in this match, watch his eyes. I mean, it's seriously like watching the Predator move through the jungle. It's incredible. He's just so focused that, yeah.
That's what comes from years of having to perform with only your eyes available to and motion with.
That's true.
Yeah. And sorry, I had a little technical issue there. But yeah, great match. Quick squash match, obviously, like I mentioned, for Andrade. Also, on Dynamite, I have not seen it as of recording time. It's like going on as we're airing. But Thunder Rosa had a big match this week, trios match, teaming with Anna Jay and Tay Conte versus Dr. Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel, not Reba. So we will have that next week in our AEW coverage. We'll give you the full rundown of this week's Dynamite, next week's Dynamite, and everything in between. For more AEW news as it happens, check out luchacentral.com.
Thank you, Dusty. Yes, next week we're going to have a lot more to cover on AEW, so stay tuned. What we are also covering right now, and we have some news on, is MLW. This week on MLW Fusion Alpha, we do have a trios match between Los Parks and 5150. And we also have the 12-man survival tag team match with the team of EJ Nduka, Richard Holiday, Savio Vega, the Blue Meanie, Warhorse, and Zenshi versus Akira Kawan, Casey Navarro, King Mo, Gino Medina, Kevin Koo, and the Beastman with Kim Chi. So that is a very loaded match. I will say that I was able to watch Los Parks versus 5150, and that just broke out in chaos. And that predicates what news coming out of War Chamber with 5150, who faced Los Parks for the MLW Tag Team Championships. You see the news out there. You know the spoilers. We're not going to discuss it this week, but make sure you stay tuned to next week because we will have much more news on the results from War Chamber. But if you want your Lucha Libre fix this week on MLW, this is a great episode to watch. Also, MLW came out with news earlier this week regarding the partnership they have with The Crash. MLW announced that its next event will take place in Tijuana, Mexico, as a co-promotion with The Crash Lucha Libre featuring, Azteca Underground. And so that's going to be held on Friday night, December 3rd, with ticket information being available a little bit later. But MLW back to Mexico, and partnering with The Crash this time. So, they did announce, or kind of tie it into an announcement by Cesar Duran, and so it's a little bit more of a storyline, situation as well. But we heard Court Bauer in the media call not too long ago talk about the desire to want to go back to Mexico and teasing that this was a possibility. And now we have it. So MLW, specifically MLW Azteca, is going to be partnering with The Crash for a show in Tijuana on December 3rd. We'll have more information as it becomes available here on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, so make sure you stay tuned for more. Up next, it's the segment you love. It's This Week in Lucha Libre History with Dusty.
Yeah, and that's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera, for information, birthdays, anniversaries, matches of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre. And it's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And our theme of breaking with tradition this week, we're going to break away from what we normally do with This Week in Lucha Libre. And we had some breaking news as we went to kind of recording time that Hayato, had passed away. And if you're not familiar with Hayato, he was the first Japanese wrestler to head to Mexico. Before Ultimo Dragon, before Sayama was Tiger Mask, before Gran Hamada, there was Hayato. He was a big deal. He started in New Japan Dojo in June of '73, and he was just deemed too little. He trained for a year and a half. He just wasn't big enough. So he went to Mexico and he trained. And he wanted to join EMLL. CMLL was known as EMLL then. And they didn't really want him, but they agreed to sign him on for some Juarez shows. And he had a karate gimmick. He was known as Karate Hayato. And he really took off. People loved him. He had a hot feud with Satanico. He had big feuds in Puerto Rico, Panama. I mean, he was everywhere. And then he got this kind of lucha training, lucha style. He goes back to Japan. And the first thing he does is try to bring over all the luchadors that he made friends with. He wants to bring that style to Japan. And it was a huge deal. He changed his mask while he was in Mexico to a style that had been kind of inspired by Sangre Chicana, but also very samurai kabuki looking, a huge influence on the mask of Great Sasuke, if you're familiar with that. And by 1982, he leaves Mexico again, and he pretty much retires in 1985 and moves to the United States. And he, was a huge influence on both the martial arts style, the karate style gimmicks in Lucha Libre, the Lucha Libre influence in Japan. Without him, there would be no Ultimo Dragon, no Sayama's Tiger Mask. There would be no Jushin Thunder Liger. He is super important, and his importance cannot be overstated. He was born, I believe, in 1951, so he, 70 years old roughly when he passed away, and hopefully we'll have some more information. We'll give you a little more on this next week, but that's as much as I could put together with the limited amount of time we had this evening for recording time. But be sure and check in at This Week in Lucha Libre. Lots of cool stuff going on. It's Chris Jericho's birthday week. Ton of cool stuff that Chris did with CMLL. Lots of good stuff. So see what Pep's got going on there, and that's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Thank you, Dusty. Of course, we always get you covered on educating you in the world of Lucha Libre with This Week in Lucha Libre History and This Day in Lucha Libre History. But we do that in a lot of other ways as well, Brendan, through everything available at luchacentral.com. Can you let our listeners know about what else they can find on luchacentral.com?
Oh man, I should have realized we were doing this on this episode. 1 second here. But if you are listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it really is time to do it.
Yep.
Luchacentral.com is the home for all things Lucha Libre, where you can get top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
And Brendan, while you're at it, I know we have some CMLL news to share, an update actually.
That was actually where I was looking at when you called me to do that wonderful bit there.
Yeah, sorry about that, but we always gotta plug the site. We gotta pay the bills,
Absolutely gotta hail the grilled cheese overlord there.
Best nickname ever.
It's CMLL, as we promised, they did have more of the Day of the Dead events, including the Rey del Inframundo, and that was going to be a matchup with Terrible. He did wind up retaining the championship, so Terrible is still the king of the underworld for another year. My opinion on that is because he's probably a safe bet to still be in CMLL next year, but that could just be me. That was against Atlantis Jr., who did win in an earlier Cybernetico, which we covered on last week's show. He did win that for the right to go against Terrible. This was a one fall match, so they clearly were also thinking about next year instead of making it a more traditional 2 out of 3 falls. So that's the big one. All of this information is up on luchacentral.com, as well as, I can give it to you, all the full results on socials. Dusty sounds like he watched a bunch of it and probably could fill you in on your favorite matches, if not the whole card, and, we can go from there. So lots of ways to get this information out of us, but start at luchacentral.com because the grilled cheese overlord tells us to.
All hail the grilled cheese overlord.
That's CMLL this week.
Yes, and that is CMLL this week. Our last news story of this episode is WWE, with a new tag team name coming about and a change to the Survivor Series team lineup.
Yeah. First up on SmackDown, we had Angel and Humberto, and they have a new tag team name. They are Los Lotharios, and they defeated Cesaro and Mansoor this week. So a huge week for them. If you don't know, a Lothario is a real ladies' man, also a little bit of a cad. So it's a great name for their team. And also a name, Angel Garza has dropped his last name, and right now he's strictly known as Angel. I would have gone with Garza if it had been me and you had to cut one half of the name.
Yeah.
But at least he's pushed. I mean, the push is good. And speaking of, defeating Cesaro is huge for Angel and Humberto. And also Mansoor was one of their biggest baby faces coming out of Crown Jewel. So this was about as high profile of a win as Los Lotharios could have picked up this week and been believable. It's a very surprising win, and I think it's a sign that they're highly invested in them. I mean, to beat Cesaro is kind of a big deal, and so it's a great spot for them. And then on Raw, we had a little bit of shake-up in the Survivor Series. Adam Pearce thinks he might have made a mistake by putting Dominic on the Raw Survivor Series team because every other member is a former WWE champion. But Dominic can keep his spot if he wins the match against Bobby Lashley. However, true to the last several months, Ray gets involved and Dominic loses, and Dominic blames Ray. I've mentioned before, I am not a fan of the storyline where they break up the Mysterios, and now that Ray is the only masked luchador in WWE as a result of the recent firings, I've become less and less of a fan of what WWE is doing with him each week. But maybe the Dominic kind of storyline will breathe some new life into their position and kind of be exciting. So hopefully that'll do something interesting for them, shake it up. But until next week, if there's any WWE news, check out luchacentral.com. They'll have you covered.
We should point out real quick, sorry. The Survivor Series team announcements happened just over social media after we recorded last week's show. So
yes,
those of you who are lost on this, they announced it, and then by the time we were able to record, they already changed the lineup to take Dominic out. So just
things change in a blink of an eye. So even when we don't mean to run short, there's still things that happen in between recordings. So yes, and also for those items that we didn't talk about this week, such as NXT and
ROH.
More detail ROH. Those we do, we'll cover those in future episodes. And of course, you can visit luchacentral.com for show results, as well. So right now that leads us to, the second part of our show. As I had mentioned earlier, our interview with Martin Carillo, who is the co-owner and founder of Wrestling with Unicorns. Now, we have interviewed a variety of people within the world of wrestling and Lucha Libre, and Martin is a little different. You have heard us talk about Wrestling with Unicorns before, as far as being able to watch clips of matches from promotions from Texas to Chicago, to Florida, really all over. But Martin himself has a deep background, with luchadors and Lucha Libre. His own culture has really influenced, his love of pro wrestling. And we got to hear some great stories from him as far as, his interactions with people in the world of pro wrestling. Before we get into the interview, I just want to ask each of you kind of any big takeaways from this and what our listeners can expect with this interview with Martin. And Dusty, I'll start with you.
What I was mostly struck by was his love of wrestling, his love of independent wrestling. He really loves it. You hear people talk about, if you love something, work at it, dedicate yourself to it, you'll find a way to get into it. He's the embodiment of that. He made his own spot. And it's so cool, and it embodies the same ethic of the indie wrestlers. He worked his way up. And I like the parallels in his story with the kind of indie wrestler story going on there.
Brendan?
I'm in a similar vein. My big takeaway, I've always talked about this, and every interview we've done, and when we're talking about supporting your local indie show, he gives us a good story of going to an indie show, falling in love with the product, finding a way to support it, and then now that's turned into him being kind of a big deal in the indie circuit, right? So. Yeah. If you love indie wrestling and you want to do more than just buy a ticket, and I do not want to undersell just how valuable it is for you to just buy a ticket and show up. But if you feel like this calling to do more, listen to Martin's story where he just did something that he was kind of having fun with it and it turned into a thing. So, that was my big takeaway on this.
Yeah. I think you both make such valid points regarding, Martin's love of wrestling, which really fuels his passion and now this business in recording, and also gets that understanding of then how to record and who he interacts with, and also really the big emphasis on how he's really pushing to promote independent promotions all over the United States and wrestlers. That will also be an interesting part of listening into the interview of how much the wrestlers have benefited from his clips and who has been able to see them. And, it really goes far up the ladder, far higher than I think he even realized until he was told who actually watches his clips. But at least for us on our show too, as we get to learn about other promotions and other Lucha Libre promotions or luchadors that we don't necessarily get to see live, organizations like Wrestling with Unicorns help bring wrestling to a larger audience, and that is ultimately what we all try and do as podcasters, as videographers, as content creators. And so we ended up realizing we have a lot more in common with Martin than we had anticipated, and you may as well as you listen to this interview. So with that, please enjoy our interview with Wrestling with Unicorn co-founder, creator, co-owner. I keep saying lots of co's, and that is, word up to his brother who works with him and helped him find it. But go ahead and listen to our interview with Martin Carillo.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. This is Miranda Morales, and today we have a very special interview up in store. Here at the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, of course, we bring you everything that you need to know in the world of Lucha Libre, and we like to speak with a variety of people in the world of Lucha Libre, from wrestlers to promoters to photographers, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with someone who has helped bring wrestling content to thousands of people all over the United States and the world with, if my math is correct, which it may be off, but I'm pretty solid on this, over 48,000 followers on various social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. He has recorded content for promotions like AEW Pro, Gali Lucha Libre, Warrior Wrestling, Freelance Wrestling, Local Wrestling, Pele Pro, and Game Changer Wrestling. And that's just this year, you guys. And his work has been featured on AEW, WWE, and Sports Illustrated. Please welcome, from Wrestling with Unicorns, Martin Carillo. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Hello guys, how are you guys doing?
We are doing excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. We here at the Lucha Central Weekly podcast often plug Wrestling with Unicorns as a place for fans to see clips of independent wrestling shows really from all over. But for those who may not be familiar with what Wrestling with Unicorns is, do you mind sharing with us, what is Wrestling with Unicorns all about?
Yeah, it's pretty much it's just a place where we help and promote wrestling companies, wrestlers. It's just mostly we do it through our clips. It's like if a promotion wants us to give them exposure, it's like we'll go to the promotion. It's like, and we take clips as much as possible. We always make sure they let us know how many clips they want. Usually promotions are like 5 to 6 clips. It's like just like the best for every match. It's pretty much what we do is just show how awesome wrestlers are. It's like making them famous. That's basically what we have been doing for the past 5 years. It's like helping promotions, helping wrestlers. It's like helping as much people as possible for them to like be able to accomplish their dreams. It's like that's something, our mission and our goal is to be able to help as much people as possible and be able to find more fans. It's like be able to help get fans and be able to be connected to the fans too. That's something that we very try our best on, having the fans be able to see cool clips, be able to become fans of new wrestlers or new promotions, check out different networks going on. That's something that Wrestling with Unicorns is very focused on.
Very cool. What did it take for you to kind of get this started? What were the initial steps that helped this fall into place for you?
Honestly, it all started me as being a fan about 6 years ago. This month's gonna be 6 years when I went to my first AAW Pro show here in Chicago. Funny thing was that show, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon were on that show, and they were the reason why me and my brother and my friend went to that show because of them. Because my friend was a big fan of Lucha Underground at the time, and they were huge. And then the funny thing is that they were supposed to be at the Olympian Theater, that's like a big theater here in Chicago, but then they just switched it to the Logan Square Auditorium. It's kind of closer to us, so we're like, okay, cool, So then from there, I remember the first match, Ray Phoenix against Tommaso Ciampa, and right away, it's like I fell in love with with seeing, like seeing Ray Phoenix for the first time in person, and plus at the time I was kind of not new to the indie scene, but like kind of new to the Lucha Underground thing. It's like at the time that was huge. And then from there, like I was just taking some pictures and some videos, like just for fun. That was all what I was doing. And then from there, I told my brother, I was like, hey, do you want to buy tickets for the next show? He goes, yeah, let's do it. At the time, we didn't have a car at the time, so like we had to depend on my dad to drive us around and stuff. And then we went to the second AAW show, and then we're like, okay, let's go to the next one. And then the third one, and then like we kept on going, you know. And then from there, I was like, I remember one day I was like, man, like I want to make a page to like just kind of show like the clips and pictures I take. You know, it's like something for fun. At the time, it was just for fun. It was never to be serious, you know. And then like the name Wrestling with Unicorns. When I was in high school, I used to use I used to write in my ID, "Suck my unicorn." And the funny thing was that I went to a Catholic school, like my freshman year, you know. So then I'll write in my ID, "Suck my unicorn," and then from there, like that was something that stuck with me. And then when I was finding a name, I was like Wrestling with Unicorns. So like because like I was like wrestlers for me were like unicorns, you know. And it was funny because I was thinking about that part of like, oh, I used to write Suck My Unicorn and stuff, and then I was thinking about unicorns being like majestic creatures, you know, something different, them being able to do something that like normal people can be doing, you know. So then I remember the first picture I made was just like kind of like a Photoshop picture. It was Chris Hero against Zack Sabre Jr. from like PWG, and I just put in the bottom Wrestling Unicorns. You know, it was just a simple picture. You know, it was never supposed to be like nothing big. So then from there, I just started to like take pictures, kept on taking pictures, taking videos. And then one day, at AAW, someone came up to me. He goes, "Hey, can we talk?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let's talk." And then he was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, what do you exactly do with the footage?" You know, I was like, I just upload it on my social medias, you know, on Twitter and Facebook. At the time, I only had Twitter and Facebook at the time. And I was like, I just do that. And he goes, what's your goal? Like, why are you doing it? I was like, oh, because I just want to like show people what I love, you know, like something that I appreciate very much, you know. And he was like, okay, cool. Like you can totally do it for us, you know. But the thing is like you have to do it from your seat. I was like, cool. I was like, I'll do it. So then I kept on doing it for AAW. And then that same year, this was 2017. So I started Wrestling Unicorns 2016. So it took about a year to like get noticed, you know, about a year. And then I took class for freelance wrestling on July of 2017. And then from there I started taking for different companies, you know. And then when I feel like when we blew up was in like 2019, you know, 2020, 2019 was when we totally, you know, and we were able to be everywhere in the United States. It's like it's funny to just talk about it, that like it was never supposed to be nothing, you know. It's like it was just supposed to be something fun, and now it's like I do it every weekend, you know. It's like being able to travel around the country, you know, being able to do this and actually getting paid for it, you know. It's like it's a good rewarding, and it's something that I am grateful for. You know, it just came up to be an idea of just for fun, and now it's more bigger than I would ever imagine.
Living the dream.
Absolutely. So you started to answer this already. You started off with lucha events, but do you have like a different approach when you're working when you're filming a luchador or lucha libre event versus when you're filming more of an indie style event?
Yeah, I do. Funny thing that you asked, because I always go to the back before the shows, and like I always talk to the wrestlers. You know, it's like, hey, is there a specific move you're doing? You know, it's like it's always a different way of talking to the American the American wrestlers and the luchadors. With the luchadors, they're mostly Mexicans. You know, it's like, and like, I'm Mexican too. So, and we have that connection, you know, like right away. You know, like we start like slang words in Spanish, you know, like right away, like I know, you know, it's like a bunch of slang words, you know. I'm like, hey, what's up, papi? You know, it's like whatever. And that's, you know, when you have like a good connection with luchadors. Yeah. And then with Americans wrestlers, I feel like it's more formal. You know, it's like I ask them, hey, like what kind of move you doing? You know, and they're like, oh, I'm doing I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And with the luchadors, they're like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And like, they start doing like the movements, you know? And I was like, I wouldn't know. Hey, like, let me know in what location are you going to be at. So like, I'll be able to capture your move the best way, you know? And then with the American luchadors, they kind of see where I'm at and they stay around the area. But with the luchadors is they just do whatever they want and they just go all around the ring. And like, you have to like be on your toes, you know, like be able to like run to the left, run to the right, or like run all around the ring, you know, because they just like at the heat of the moment, you know, the heat of the moment, they just go for a move, boom, and then like they just come back inside and they hit another move, and then like you have to make sure that you're catching everything. So like with the lucha style is more faster, you know, it's like one of my favorites that I have ever recorded, Rey Fénix, that man is so talented. You know, like he has always been.
Yeah.
You know,
so quick.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
And like I have almost been killed by him like 3-4 times.
How many people can claim that?
You know, and it's funny because a lot of people they're like how? I was like I can tell you the exact moments that happened. I was like, I have seen this man go 100 miles from inside to outside. I was like, to a freaking cannonball to the outside. I was like, he does his version of the 619 to the outside. I was like, I was almost kicked in the head by him. I was like, I know Rey Fénix, you know, and like, I was like, I know that man, like, he can like literally murder somebody. But it's, and that's why it's like, you always have to make sure that like you talk to wrestlers, you know, it's like some wrestlers are really cool about it and they'll tell you, hey, this and that, this and this. And then there's other wrestlers that like, they'll be like, oh, I haven't figured out. So like, just look at the ring and that's all, you know? So like in the luchadors, they start telling you, but then they do a completely whole different match. So.
Yeah, it's very true. They'll in their head it looks one way, and then when they actually do it, it goes completely another way.
Oh yes, I was like, I know that completely. Like I remember there was one match they told me, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then once I started taking clips, it was a whole completely match. It was a whole different match. Am I watching the correct match? Because I was like, they told me this, that. And I was like, and they just did completely the opposite that they were thinking of doing.
You mentioned Rey Fénix being one of the people, your favorite people to film. Are there any wrestlers or luchadors in particular that you really enjoy filming and working with?
Luchadors, there's Gringo Loco from here, from Gali Lucha Libre. He's one of my closest friends. We basically I grew up with him in the business because like I've been knowing him for 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like he's been one of my mentors. Gringo's one of them because he has gotten so good over the years. Recently I saw him wrestle against Freddy Yehai in AAW, and that was the first time I seen him in a one-on-one with American Luchador. No, an American wrestler. Like that was the first time I've seen him. And then, like, the style that he was bringing, it was so completely to the Lucha Libre style that I see him doing in Gali all the time. And it was something different, you know, but like Lucha Libre wise, like, man, it's like, I seen this man, like, catch, Ray Horace, like, from out of nowhere. I seen him carry Aramis, man. Aramis is another guy that's like,
yes.
My God.
Yeah.
Yes, so good.
Right? It's like, Aramis, Alex too. Mr. Iwana, you know, Mr. Iwana is another one that like, coming very often here in Chicago, and like I've seen him often here. And then there's another luchador from Laredo, Texas, Antonio, San Francisco. Is it Antonio San Francisco? ASF. He's from, the Laredo, area. He's another one that like, he's super young, but like, he's getting there, you know, that one of the luchadors that I really enjoy taking clips of. And then, Gino Medina, you know, it's like another guy that's like, who had become like one of my closest friends in this business. he's another one because, man, he throws that spinning tornado kick like oof.
Ooh,
Yeah.
dangerous kick, man. Especially for someone that, you know, his style, again, he has such a hybrid style of learning, you know, lucha, but also, you know, the American style, and I think that he could be such a multifaceted wrestler. And a lot of the wrestlers, you know, that have lucha training, but also, you know, that American style, that's a dangerous combination.
Yeah. Oh, and then right now I'm just thinking about them. Candice Lupus and Dragon Bait.
Yes.
You know,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon Bait. Oh my God. I remember I took clips of Dragon Bait in Mexico. I actually did one show in Mexico in 2019, and like I won in Mexico, and then like I took clips of him, and like right away when I saw Dragon Bait, I was like, this guy's gonna be like he's gonna be good, you know. But then it took him years to come to the United States because of the whole like visa situation.
Yeah.
And stuff. But then once he came here, like he started blowing up. But recently I haven't seen him recently. You know, and then kind of Lupus, another one that like he has a heavy hand. Like I remember I saw him wrestle against Gino Medina and Loco, and they beat the shit out of each other. You know, like,
See, Gino didn't say that when we were interviewing him. He mentioned nothing about getting his ass kicked.
No, he probably went back to all the Psycho Clown punishing instead of talking about that.
yeah, like I saw Gino Medina against Psycho Clown. You know, it's like that was one of the first matches at Local that I was able to take clips of. That match honestly like blew my mind because I've never seen Psycho Clown before, and that was my first time seeing him. And like they were like going like doing flips, they were doing so much different things like the style that Psycho Clown does in AAA, you know. But yeah, like Candice Lupus against Gino, it's like they beat the crap out of each other, you know. It's like I remember because Gino was my ride after the show, right? And like I remember seeing his chest was all red. Like it was all nasty, right? And then like he was driving us to my hotel room, and then he was just telling me, man, it's like I really like my match against Candice Lupus, but then I was like, but the bad thing is that your chest is red. He goes, yeah, but like that was a good match. I was like, it was. A good match. I was like, it was a good match, but I was like, it was a lot of chopping. It was a lot of going crazy. So.
Do you have any fun road stories from riding with some of the luchadors? You know, you mentioned Gino was your ride at times. Like, so you have any awesome stories?
I'm trying to think what awesome stories that are appropriate.
We like inappropriate stories too.
Yeah, the answer is all of them, Martin. You can say whatever you want.
No, I understand exactly here. What he's on about. I've been in the car with, There's some things you just like, cause you just don't want to, you don't know when that's going to come back and haunt you that you told that story to somebody.
That's very, very true.
The only luchador that we have ever, recently, Ricky Marvin was with us in the car with Gino and Roxy, like my brother and me, you know, it's like, and we were just driving to someone's house, you know, it's like, and we were able to eat at their house. I don't know if I can talk so much about it, but like they were just like some like a lucha family, you know, like a lucha family that like I didn't know it was them, you know, because these people, they used to wear masks in the 90s, so like I never knew who they were. But then eating there, you know, and then like out of nowhere, like my brother was like, dude, they are famous luchadors. I was like, not even. And then he literally passed me the phone, and I'm like, I just saw like the name and like kind of like the image of the person. I was like, oh God, I was like, we are eating with like lucha royalty, you know?
Yeah.
Freaking cool, right? But like, I don't know if I can mention them because it's like they live a private life now. But that was super cool to see. And then super crazy, been in our car before.
That's one of the ones I've been in the car with. That is always a fun ride.
Super crazy. In that car, it was super crazy. B-Boy, Sam Ferrara. and like I was sitting down in the middle, and my brother was driving, and then B-Boy was in the driver's seat, and then Super Crazy was in my left side, and like I'm kind of a big person, you know, like I'm big, and like they literally made me be squeezed in the middle of Sammy and Super Crazy, you know, and then Sammy just like wraps his arm around me, and then like he's shirtless too.
Of course.
And the funny thing is that he just wrestled, you know, and we had to take him to the airport, and we had to take Super Crazy to his house, or like the house he was staying at, and B-Boy wanted to go to Evolve that day because Evolve was running in Chicago, and we were at Black Label, and Black Label is in Indiana, so it's about an hour away from here. And then like I only like remember Sammy was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be filming for the blog, so like please don't say nothing stupid, don't do anything." We're like, "Okay, cool." You know? And then like Sammy just like in the whole blog, he's literally wrapping his whole arm, like his heart, like he smells because like he just wrestled, you know. And I'm like smiling the whole blog because I was like, crap, like he really fucking smells. I was like, fuck. I was like, Jesus, right? And then we're driving and stuff, and then like Super Crazy, just like I don't know what happened, but like Super Crazy like literally smacks my brother in the back of the head, you know. And then like just out of nowhere, he just smacks him fast, right? And like he did it as a fun way, you know, like he didn't do it in an aggressive way or nothing, but he just smacks him in the back of the head. And then Super Crazy literally swings the door open, you know, in the middle of the expressway. He opens the door, and then the door comes back, right? And then he did it the wrong way. And that was a story that like I'm like, wow, it's like Super Crazy smacked my brother in the back of the head, and he literally opened the door in the expressway, you know. And that's one of the stories. Or recently at GCW, Gringo, myself, my brother, ASF, and someone else, we just randomly went to a restaurant and like we just ate together. You know, that's some of the things that I really enjoy is being able to interact with the luchadors. You know, it's like interact with people that I see only in the ring, but then be able to build friendships. That was the same way with Aeroboy. Aeroboy last year, we were on the same show, Game Changer Wrestling. He was in the Nick Gage Invitational last year. And then, and we were the only, like, honestly, like the only Mexicans there. And then Aeroboy was like, "Hey, like, can I eat with you guys?" And we're like, "Yeah, like, you know, like, let's go eat together." And then, like, it was Aeroboy, and like one of my friends and my brother and like another friend, and we were just eating together, you know. And my friend was like very starstruck because he was like, wow, he goes, "Wow, I'm eating with Aeroboy," you know. I was like, yeah, I was like, you know, it's like he was very starstruck, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I've been knowing Aeroboy for a while now, you know. It's like I was just eating with him like normally, but my friend was like with the biggest smile ever, you know. It's like he was like, "Oh my God, I'm eating with Aeroboy," you know. Like seeing those stories are something that I really enjoy wrestling. You know, it's like it's something that keeps me going. You know, sometimes wrestling gets stressed out, like very stressful because of the whole politics. You know, like let's be honest, you know, there's so many politics out there, you know, but being able to interact with the wrestlers, being around them is something that I truly treasure and appreciate very much. And like a lot of these wrestlers have become like my friends outside of the ring. You know, like some of them I actually talk to them like almost every day, you know, or some of them I forget to answer, and they're like, "Hey, answer me back," you know. And you know, it's like I'm really bad at replying back, especially to like my Facebook Messenger. It's like it's disgusting. Like I have like over 500 unread messages. You know, it's like, and like a lot of people get mad at me. They're like, "Hey, like why don't you answer me back?" I was like, because I have a lot of messages on Messenger, you know. And like on Instagram, like I'm a little bit better on it because like I check, I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, let me reply back, and I reply back right away. But then when it's Messenger, it's like piling. So yeah, that's why like people get upset with me just because I never reply back.
It's a problem I think we all suffer from time to time. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you talked about the politics. We're going to avoid the negative stuff here. What is a promotion that you like to work with and you think that we all should know more about?
A promotion I really I really like working for. It's like Galley Lucha Libre. You know,
Okay.
Carlos. Shout out to Carlos Galley. You know, it's like he has become like my second dad. You know, he always like treats me like one of his sons and like my brother too. You know, it's like he's always there making sure that we're not doing anything stupid. You know, it's like we're doing everything the right way. You know, he's always there telling us, hey, you guys have to do this. You know, you do that. But then like the wrestling there, you know, it's like he's always bringing different luchadors. You know, from Mexico. That's like our main thing. He brings Ares. Aramis and Ares are our current Galley Tag Team champions right now. So they come here very often now. And then we have our Discovery champion. It's Atomico Jr. The belt is a tribute to Discovery. So that's why he has the belt there. And then our world champ, we have like 2 world champions, but like one of them is the world champion, the other one's like the Intercontinental champion. Cody Jones and Ricky Cruz. They are champions. This Sunday, we have our big Galley show this Sunday, like our big last show of the year, the big show. But even though we'll be running, but that will be our last like main show. Ricky Marvin's gonna be there. Dante Martin from AEW. He was there. Like I've been knowing Dante since like he was like 16. And the funny thing is like he always always tells me that like, dude, like you were the first person who ever like took pictures of me, you know, or like took videos of me, you know, when I was just a young kid. And like he was wearing a mask at the time.
I was gonna ask, was that when he was wearing the mask? But yeah.
And he was Angel Dorado, and his brother was Airwolf. And they came to Galley because of the whole like Mac gimmick, you know, and in Galley we want like mostly luchadors, you know, like people with masks, you know, like Psycho Clown is coming this weekend too, you know, it's like and then Sam Adonis, you know, shout out to Sam Adonis, you know, it's like another guy that's been a big influence on me too. Diamante Azul is coming, and Puma King this weekend, you know, so like Galley it's a lot, it's a promotion a lot of people don't know about, because they're only on YouTube, and like we were trying to like show it on Fight TV, but there was a whole situation going on there. But like now they show on Facebook or YouTube, and that's something that I want people to see. You know, it's like people know about AAW. You know, like people know about GCW. You know, GCW right now they're in a really high spot right now. You know, like they're considered to be the indie spot indies. You know, it's like they're next to PWG right now. You know, it's like people know about GCW, but people don't know about Galley, or people don't know about like freelance underground, you know, freelance wrestling. Companies like Zello Pro, you know, that's another promotion I work for, you know, like often. And like there's so many promotions that people know, like they do know, but like they don't want to admit it that they know, you know. It's like, is there like guilty pleasure, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. I think there's definitely guilty pleasure indie promotions that people, you know, won't say that they like, but then, you know, they're creeping on the Wrestling with Unicorns page looking at all those clips that you put up on there.
Right.
I've watched many a Galley event just through your footage.
Yep.
They do have Facebook coverage now. At Galley Lucha on Facebook, like you said, but for those of you that don't want to play with Facebook, the Wrestling with Unicorns coverage is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, because the funny thing is that Carlos always he told me, he goes, Martin, like every time I see your Instagram, I see the whole match. I was like, good.
You just cover all the spots, and if the whole match is spots, then what? You're just doing your job.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't be mad at the man for doing his job.
Yeah, that's what he told me last time. He was like, Martin, like every time I see Wrestling Unicorns, I see the whole match. You know, he goes like, oh, it's like you have to give him a little flavor. I was like, but the thing is, the whole match is good. You know, I was like, I was like, in the Ramis, in the Ares match, and like against like any other Tantinos, like those matches are always gonna be popping, you know, like those matches are always gonna be good. So I was like giving people what they want, you know, because a lot of people don't have Facebook, you know, like a lot of people don't want to sit down, you know, it's like, and watch a full show, you know, it's like, let's just give them, for Gally, only for Gally, I give a lot of clips, you know, like for Gally, I give a lot of clips, and then for other promotions, I don't because of the different rules, you know, it's like they mostly focus on DVD selling or focus on pay-per-view buys, you know, at Gally, they mostly give the show for free, you know, so then the thing I do, I basically give it for free too, you know, but the thing is like, I put the links on there, but hey, like if you want to check this full show out, like you can go on YouTube, you can go on Facebook, you know, whichever you prefer to watch the full show if you want to, you know, and that's something that I mostly do, you know, that I give promotion their exposure, you know, I make sure people know where to find it, you know, make people sure what promotion is it, you know, like, what network, you know, and like, what the questions I hate is always like, where can I see this? I'm like, it's just right there. It's either, you know, so those are the questions and I'm like, cool.
I should also throw out there that Gally does also have luchatv.com where I don't know what all's available there, but it looks like you can catch older events that are on there at the very least. So
yeah.
Just
yeah, perfect. Yeah, and like like you can see the older shows. Honestly, like you can find there's free shows everywhere. YouTube, IWTV, Lucha TV, you know, and then like even a Roku, you know, it's like I was like randomly because I have a Fire TV and then like I downloaded the Roku app. I don't know what was Roku, and then out of nowhere I see a Gally show, right? And then the funny thing was that it was a show that I filmed for him because I used to be his camera guy, like his roaming camera guy. You know, I was like I used to be his roaming camera guy. So then I literally, I'm sitting there, I was like, wait, I was like, I remember this show. I was like, I literally filmed this show. Right?
Deja vu.
Yeah. Like, I
That's
messaged
gotta be
Carlos.
interesting.
I was like, Carlos, I was like, is your show on Roku? He goes, yeah, they're on Roku, Amazon Prime. And he started naming everything. I was like, how? I'm like, how did you not tell nobody? He goes, oh, I just forgot to tell people that it was there. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, people are gonna find the show randomly.
Oh man. With everyone that you filmed over the years, I mean, you've talked some pretty big names and people who have moved on to, you know, bigger promotions, you know, national television. Is there anyone that you have yet to film that you would love to film?
Oh my God, I love this question. Ooh, okay, so the person in my list that it's like number one in my list, and like I always mention it to everybody, like, and this person even knows that like I want to film him, like he knows this. El hijo de Vikingo.
yeah.
Ooh, oh my God, oh man.
Yes.
You know, like I seen his stuff. I was like, I can make so many cool clips out of this. You know, I was like, and like I even told him too. I was like, dude, like I wish one day you come to the United States and like I'll be able to film you, or like even here or like, even in Mexico. I was like, because I need to film you because I was like, you're technically in my Lucha Libre list. You know, my first Lucha Libre list, number one, because I filmed Penta, Rush, you know, Ray Juarez, Dragon Lee. There's a bunch of luchadors that I filmed, but like I can't even remember like the list, but like they have already hit like El Bárbaro Cavernario, you know, it's like all these guys from CMLL, I have filmed them and stuff, but like Hijo Vikingo is the one that like I need to film before I die, basically. You know, it's like I need to.
Well, we'll help start with that campaign, you know,
Absolutely.
Wrestling with Unicorns for Hijo de Vikingo, because you're absolutely right. We love, I mean, he was one of really the luchadors that more modern luchadors that I fell in love with, and watching his work in AAA and on the show, we constantly talk about him. And I think in general, he is being touted as the next big luchador from just the wrestling community, from other wrestlers, from fans. Like, he is the next big name in Lucha Libre, really over, possibly over the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes. So, something I mentioned to you off air, but I'm going to mention it to the listeners right now, is that if you've ever listened to a Lucha Central Weekly podcast interview, we're going to do something a little bit different with today's interview, and we're going to jump into some hot topics, as Martin here is really on the pulse of independent wrestling. I mean, we've talked about already all of the promotions that he has filmed for and the luchadors that he has worked with. So we figured, why not ask him about his thoughts on some of the hottest topics happening in pro wrestling. And one of the hottest ones that is happening currently is the news with Ring of Honor, with the restructuring that they're undergoing, and the news that they have decided to release their wrestlers from their contracts really over the next few months. What we were curious of knowing from your perspective is, how do you feel about the recent Ring of Honor news and how it's going to affect smaller independent promotions throughout the country?
Honestly, like, it's upsetting, it's like there's so many of my friends who worked in Ring of Honor, it's like it sucks that they don't have that job no more, it's like, because that was something that they were working for, it's like they were actually getting paid, it's like they were, Ring of Honor helped them with the pandemic, that was something huge they were doing, it's like, honestly, I feel like with this release, with the whole Ring of Honor thing, is like, it's going to make the independent scene with different talents, like matches that we kind of thought of never, like, imagining of happening, it's like right now, like a great example, like the Briscoes, it's like they are the GCW Tag Team Champions, it's like, who would imagine in 2021 the Briscoes would have been in the Indies winning one of the toppest indie Tag Team Champions going on, and then with the Luchadors, it's like now we can have a lot of dream matches going on, it's like, because like Ray Horowitz now is free, it's like a Flamita, Bandito, someone else who was doing so good in the Indies, and then he signed with Ring of Honor and he couldn't do so many bookings anymore, it's like, I feel like it's good for them for the Indies, but the bad thing is that like some guys might be losing spots, because of with the bigger names, it's like, let's be straight up honest, it's like, some people would rather book a Bandito rather than a local wrestler, wrestler just training, it's like, or even though they're for free, but they rather get someone bigger, it's like, and that's something that I feel it might be happening, it's like there are so many guys that are getting named right now, and like indie promotions, but it's good for indie, for indie wrestling, but it's bad for them because they just lost a contract, like they lost guaranteed money, and it sucks for them, but for us it's like, wow, it's like we're gonna get some good matches, but like it just depends on seeing what will be happening, because so recently, it's like lately I have been seeing a lot of Ring of Honor guys already. It's like this past weekend I went to Colorado and like I did a Rocky Mountain Pro show, and there was a Sledge. The Sledge is a Ring of Honor wrestler. It's like, and he was just released too. It's like I've been seeing, and then like 2 weeks ago, way before the whole like Ring of Honor thing, like Ray Horace was here in Chicago. Ray Horace was here. Roxy was here. The woman, the Ring of Honor Woman Champion. Seeing so many of these guys, like starting like technically like a couple of weeks ago, they were doing indie bookings, and I was surprised they were doing indie bookings because I know how Ring of Honor is so exclusive. But even though lately they've been like very lenient, but seeing them, I'm like, oh cool. And then like seeing this news, I'm like, it's like probably that was something that Ring of Honor was more lenient because they were thinking of doing something, But like, I don't consider myself an insider, so I just something that I just hear, something that it's just my opinion, but right. I felt like, it's like it sucks, but like it'll be good to see different matchups, like freshen up the indies, especially with the WWE guys being released, like Roddy Murphy, recently he wrestled for Warrior, man, this guy is good too. It's like
so good. Yeah, he's incredible.
Exactly. He's incredible, and he's going to New Japan. It's like they're gonna have some good matches over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then right now it's like, let's see what else happens. With the luchadors like Dragon Lee and his brother Dragolistico.
Dragolistico.
Yeah, Dragolistico. Like they just helped in AAA for the Eros Immortales show. It's like seeing that going on. It's like it's gonna be good. But it just sucks that like a lot of wrestlers lost their job.
Yeah, such a good point. Because it's a mixed bag, for the independent scene even in itself, a mixed bag of new matches, getting more eyes to their product by having some bigger names. But that then also puts off other maybe talent that are trying to make a name for themselves. And as well, too, now there's one less independent promotion for people to land and one less independent promotion for wrestlers to work towards and have a career in. So that just makes that whole landscape for, what is that next step for a lot of wrestlers much more unknown.
We kind of touched on it in the previous question, but what do you think about the current state of luchadors in WWE, including what's going on in NXT right now with NXT 2.0?
Honestly, I don't really watch WWE.
Yes.
That is
we
the
just
right
do it
answer.
because of the show.
Yeah. It's our job to kind of do that. So we're hoping you could tell us, because we don't know.
I used to watch NXT a lot because of my friends, because I have a lot of friends in NXT, and like I used to have more friends in NXT, and then like the cuts happen, and that's the part that sucks. But like I've been like watching some of the shows, like the NXT, but like with like Raw and SmackDown, I don't really watch it, but like I've heard about Angel Garza and Roberto Carillo. They were put together, it's like, and that's good. Like we're having two Mexicans together, it's like, and like making us proud,
They're good together too, yeah.
Yeah, they're really good together.
So like that's good, but the sadly thing, but like let's be honest, they're not gonna win the tag belt, it's like let's be honest.
Right? Because we constantly talk about it on the show, where we kind of have our hopes up for a few weeks. But how high do you set those expectations? Because how far are they going to go? At best, they'll be maybe a number one contender. They'll go for the belts, but it's not going to go anywhere. So how much do you invest if you ultimately know it's not going to go anywhere?
Exactly. And that's why it's like, I don't try to invest myself so much, because I'm like, I have like high hopes, and then like they get crushed. I'm like, no, I have been like disappointed like my entire life, so I don't want to be disappointed again.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's
true though.
They have that track record. Like it's like Dusty just said, it's true. The whole point is that they do this all the time to us that want the luchadors in particular to do well. Sorry, I'll rant if I don't stop myself.
You're among like-minded people, Martin. That's why you just got us going. We thought, are we the only ones that think this way? And you proved us no.
No, let's be honest. It's like that's why it's like I stopped watching it. But even though like I still pay for Peacock, I know I still pay for Peacock. It's like I randomly like I go hang out with my brother, and like I just put Peacock on, it's like I watch like the old WWE shows, or like the or like the ICW shows, it's like or like the indie shows that they have on there, it's like, and sometimes I just watch some like random stuff on there, it's like so I can catch up with the UK scene, because that's something that I really enjoy and like I really like is the UK scene going on, even though WWE has taken over that scene, but that's a whole different story. But it's like that's great for them, but they really messed up a lot of people over there, but but yeah, it's like I still pay for Peacock, and like I tried to catch up on the WWE, but I can't. I catch up everything else except that. But NXT, like I watch it. I used to watch it constantly because of like, let's be honest, Alex Zane. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Boy.
guys, you know, it's like he's another guy that like I became close friends to, before he signed. You know, it's like the funny thing is like now I can actually say it, but like I knew a while that he was signed. Like I knew, way before he like, announced it, like I knew like he was signed.
Yeah.
And it was suck, you know, so. But then now that he's back, you know, it's cool seeing him now, you know. But the bad thing is that I don't see him as often as much no more, because he's mostly booked at GCW, he's mostly booked everywhere else except like locally in Chicago. But the good thing, he's coming to Chicago for the Windy City Classic, this at the end of the month, so like, I'll be able to see him there. And then like I still watch it because of what's your names, MSK.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are another guys that I basically grew up with them. You know, it's like I met when they hit AEW debut here, 2016. You know, it's like I barely started the page and we just started talking about like he was asking me, hey, like what's your page about, blah blah blah, and that was how I met him. And then I met Nash Carter, Zachary Wentz in the Indies. He was another guy like I became really close with. Then Desmond. So like that was the main reason why I was watching NXT. But now it's like there's nobody that I really know on there anymore. So I'm like I just watch it. But and then since like last week, they just lost the tag team belts. So I'm like I'm not gonna watch it anymore.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done. You know?
Terminaste. You're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna watch it no more. I was like, there's no reason to watch it no more because they just lost the tag team belts. So I'm like, no.
So you already mentioned like in the UK scene, and then the WWE buyout. One of the things we talk about on the show a lot is the constant rumors that the WWE is trying to do a similar move down in Mexico. As nicely as you can, what are your feelings on that?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's kind of it's a good thing, but then a bad thing, you know, because I know my people, you know, it's like I know how they're gonna react to it, you know, it's like some people will be like, yeah, you know, WWE, but other people will be like, you know, it's like curse them out, you know, it's like they will say some certain things, you know, but like I feel like WWE shouldn't be touching that area, you know, because there's so many companies down there, you know, we have AAA, you know, CMLL, and then WWE comes in, and it's like another one, you know, it's like we kind of know the situation between CMLL and AAA, you know,
right,
and then. You know, and then the indie scene down there, you know, it's like it's everywhere, you know, it's like there's so many small promotions going on there, you know, it's like IWGR is one of the big ones, you know, it's like I have met Senor what's his name, Marco Moreno, you know, it's like the owner, I met him before, you know, like and we have spoken about like something similar like that before, you know, it's like, and for him personally, like he has told me, he goes that's on them, you know, it's like I'm still gonna run my shows, you know, like I'm still gonna run the way I want it, you know, it's like I'm not gonna get influenced by no one else. And that was something that I spoke to him about like recently, when he brought some of his guys here at Galley. But honestly, like WWE going to Mexico, like they shouldn't touch that territory. They should be just focusing on the UK, but like don't touch my people's territory, you know? You know, it's like all of us are good down there, you know, it's like let them live their lives. But it's like like I wouldn't want them to like touch it or like do like Mexico UK or not me, sorry, Mexico NXT. They shouldn't be touching it. But I don't know, it's like they probably want to, but I hope they don't know. So.
But you make a good comparison of what's happened on the UK scene and how, you know, WWE's presence impacted a lot of the independent scene in the UK. It would be very likely that something very similar would happen And we just talked about the fact that WWE doesn't necessarily utilize their luchadors in the best way to begin with. So, how much sense does that really make for them if they were to do something like that?
Exactly. And that's why, like, I feel like when there are rumors about a luchador going to WWE, I'm like,
yeah. It's such a weird
please don't go.
feeling.
Right? It's like, first of all, like, first, like, I'm like, yeah, it's like you're going to be making money, but then I'm like, they're going to ruin you, though. It's like, let's be honest.
Yeah. Yep.
And hopefully the WWE is not listening to this. It's like, I still want to be hired one day.
No. We'll edit this out. And,
We'll fix it in post.
Let's be honest, like AEW is like, they kind of know what they're doing for the luchadors. Like AEW, it's like they have the Lucha Bros. It's like they are they still the tag team champions? Because I haven't watched AEW for a while now. So.
Well, that would be another question we were actually interested in getting your thoughts on, because they still are the AEW tag team champions, but they did lose the AAA tag team championships to FTR. So, what are your thoughts on that too, especially with the way FTR won them and they are now your AAA tag team champions? I just want to ask, what were your thoughts on that match and how that went down?
Okay, so I remember, like, I wasn't watching AEW because I usually don't watch wrestling when I'm home. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I usually don't watch it because I have so much footage to edit, and then I have so much wrestling. Sometimes overwhelm me. But I was on social media, and then out of nowhere I saw FTR, the AAA Tag Team Champions. I'm like, what? So I watched it, and then I started seeing the backlash. Like, let's be honest, there's a lot of people in Mexico who are very upset. The FTR, the champions. It's like, but the thing is, like, a lot of people were making rumors. They're like, oh yeah, like the AAA locker room is upset. It's like, but the thing is, like, it's like, it's a good move for AAA because that's giving them more eyes to the product. It's like for them because they can't be showing their shows in the United States. It's like because of something going on. It's like, it's like for them to have a different option. It's like be able to have more eyes on them. They're like, oh, cool. They're like, FTR are the tag team champions. Like, oh, let me go find a AAA show on YouTube. Or let me go look at the AAA social medias. It's like kind of give them more eyes on them. And it's the same way what happened with Diana Purrazzo, like winning the Reina de Reina champion. It's like, and then Kenny Omega being the mega champion. It's like, even though people are saying, oh yeah, there's no talent from AAA holding any AAA belts, it's like kind of messed up. But the thing is, like, seeing it in the business wise, it's like giving more eyes to the product. It's like having a Canadian and American, like Americans having the belts. It's like getting them more publicity. It's like it's a win and a loss for some people. It's like for me personally, like them having the belts. At first, I'm like kind of confused, but then seeing it as a business wise, it's like it's good for them, but it's bad for AAA because they don't have anybody holding their belts. It's like anybody from there, like their own guys holding the belts.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But the thing is, like, they're not running as many shows as they used to because of the whole pandemic still going on. So like them having the belts on TV, like having people see the belts that like somebody has them, it's like rather than just having them in Mexico and nobody sees them, so that's why it's like it's a win and a loss, but for me it's like it's a good thing for business, but it's like it's a bad thing because there's no AAA people holding belts. So.
Oh, I think that's the struggle, and I think at least also with your role being able to see a little bit more of that business side of wrestling and how visibility is a big thing. I mean, that's you're in the business of visibility and getting people to get more eyes on a product. So I think that insight is pretty valuable understanding that logic of AAA, because of, the complications they have right now of content, even just being on YouTube, being able to have their name and their titles and even a storyline on U.S. national television is ultimately a big win for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's why it's unfortunately that they can show their shows in the United States right now. It's like, it sucks, but then having champions on TV or like you say, having the storyline based on AAA belts, that's something, it's like people be like, oh, cool, AAA is still alive, it's like, and it's something good for them in the business wise, it's like, having, all behind the scenes, I see so many things behind the scenes, it's like, there's things that I can never mention, it's like, but I've seen it so much, so much politics, like we were talking about earlier, it's like so many different things, and why things happen for a reason, that's something that I've learned. It's like you have to you have to treat this as a business, it's like you have to make sure people know your product, making sure people are engaged in your product, making sure people know that you're still running, because of the pandemic, there were so many promotions that synced, there's a lot of promotions that don't run anymore because they were badly attacked because of the pandemic going on. It's like being able to still be alive, still being able to show people, hey, we're still running shows, it's like, just like they can't do it completely like they used to, but now they're still running or doing something with them.
Well, Martin, speaking of visibility, please let our listeners know where they can find Wrestling with Unicorns.
You can find us on our website, wrestlingwithunicorns.org, because .com was taken. You can get the merch there. You can support us with merch. And then you can go on Facebook, Wrestling with Unicorns, Twitter, Wrestling with Unicorns. Even though on Twitter we are sensitive content, to the point that you need to go to your settings and accept you can see sensitive content. But even though it's wrestling, but according to Twitter it's violent, it's something crazy. And Instagram, Wrestling Unicorns. TikTok, we are TikTok is luchando con unicorns, because we had Wrestling Unicorns, but then we got banned because it was considered violent content too. So you can just follow us on any social media. Just make sure you go to just put Wrestling Unicorns, and then on TikTok make sure you do luchando, because that's the only one we have on TikTok. Yeah. Do I have anything else? I was like, no, I don't think I have anything else. So.
Yeah, I think my count was pretty good. I did the math very rigorously earlier today between your social media platforms. I found Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, where you can find Wrestling with Unicorns. So make sure you follow them, as we plug them on the show a lot as a forum to watch wrestling from all over the U.S., from Chicago to Texas, to Colorado. I mean, there's places, I know, Martin, you're still traveling all over the U.S. to film independent wrestling promotions, and following Wrestling with Unicorns makes you feel like you're there, like you're getting the pulse of what's happening on the independent scene, getting to watch some of your favorite wrestlers and luchadors especially, and seeing those moments that really are part of some of the best highlight reels and moments of wrestling shows. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for supporting and promoting independent wrestling. That is something we are really passionate about here on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. And literally, you bring wrestling to thousands of people every day.
I know, and it's like it was super crazy. It was super crazy. But in Colorado, it's like I never been to Colorado before. I never worked in Colorado before. But right away when I walked into the locker room, so many of the guys already knew who I was. Like literally, someone was like, he's the guy that everybody talks about, right? And I was like, I hope good things. I was like, he goes, yeah, like everybody puts you over in the locker room. You know, it's like everybody was so welcoming, and like every locker room that I go to, you know, it's like they're so welcoming because they know already. You know, like they know who I am. The same thing happened when in North Carolina, because I never been to North Carolina before. You know, it's like being there. It's like everybody knew about it. You know, it's like everybody's like, oh yeah, Wrestling Unicorns. Like I watch it all the time. You know, it's like and like I get messages from the UK. I get messages from India. You know, it's like I get messages from like different countries telling me, hey, I wake up in the mornings, like I see your stuff. You know, it's like and that's like my what do you call it? Like my morning news. You know, it's like morning news. You know, they're like, yeah, like I watch it. Like I sit down. Someone told me when their grandparents passed away, they're like the only way he will see me wrestle was through your clips. You know, it's like, and I was like, and like that for me personally, like it really touched my heart, because I'm like, wow, it's like your grandpa, like your grandpa could have been watching you on YouTube, you know, but like him choosing to watch you on Twitter or Instagram, it's like, it's meaningful to me. You know, it's like, and it's funny because even in my shoe job, there's people who have seen my clips, but like they don't know it's me. You know, it's like I remember one of my coworkers, he was telling me, oh yeah, my cousin is a wrestler. You know, it's like, and then he goes, oh yeah, I want to show you who he is, right? And like literally when he shows me the Twitter, it was my Twitter. You know, you know, it was my Twitter, and it was his cousin. His cousin is someone that like I film every weekend nowadays. You know, and I'm like, dude, like, that's literally like my page. He goes, that's, I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm Wrestling Unicorns. I was like, man, like, I see your cousin every weekend. And like, so cool. It happens all the time everywhere I go. You know, it's like, people are like, oh, cool, like, I like your shirt. You know, it's like, hey, like, I've seen that logo before. You know, it's like, it's cool to be recognized. But like I tell people, you know, it's like, for me, it's weird when people give me compliments about the page. You know, or it's weird for me personally still, like, to people like, oh man, like I appreciate what you do, you know, like just like telling me how much the page have helped them, you know, it's like, that's something for me. It's like, I'm still getting used to it, you know, it's, even though I've been doing this for 5 years now, but it's hard, you know, it's like, it's hard to like accept them, you know, because like I never did it for the fame. I never did it for anything else, you know, I just did it for the love of it, you know, and like now being able to do this every weekend, being able to bring independent wrestling to so many people now, you know, it's like people being fans of Wrestling Unicorns, you know, like seeing people at shows wearing like my shirt, you know, it's, I'm like, wow, it's like, I feel like Pentagon sometimes, you know, it's like seeing like 10 shirts crowd, you know, it's so like, cool. And like me, you know, and it's, and then like, especially, where like AEW used my work, you know, it's like, that was something that, for me, was meaningful because like it was on TNT. You know, it's like I grew up with WCW. You know, I grew up with the Cruiserweights. You know, like I grew up with like Conan. You know, it's and like with like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, and then like being able to see my clips on the same channel as they came out when I was a kid. You know, it's like that was something so meaningful to me, and it was something like I literally like. I cried, you know, because that was something that I felt so proud of at that moment, even though like I had accomplished so much already, but like that moment I felt like I made it because like seeing like my mom watching it like with me, you know, it's like her who wasn't as the biggest support when I started doing this, you know, like to be honest, like my mom and my dad were never the biggest support because they're like, oh, why are you doing this? Like you know, like this silly things, you know. But then her being able to sit down with me, you know, like I was in Mexico during the time when the whole AAW and the Gage happened. You know, it's like having her sit down and watching it with me and my brother and my sister. You know, it's like it was something that I will never forget. And that's why I'm very proud of that moment of AAW choosing me to use my work on their program. You know, it's like. And now it's like being able to accomplish like every show I consider to be a big show. You know, every show, like no matter what company it is, no matter if it's 10 people, no matter if it's 5 people, you know, it's like I consider it a big show. Even though I'm not a wrestler, but like I know the Big Show feelings, but I feel like every show is a Big Show. Every show for me personally is a Big Show. You know, like you always have to bring your 100%, even though like you feel like, oh, there's only 5 people out there. No, it's like you have to work your hardest. You know, like I've seen so many luchadors almost literally killing themselves. You know, it's like for 10 people.
Yeah.
But that's how hard they go. You know, it's like, and that's how they're taught to do. And that's why it's like for me doing clips, you know, it's like I literally like I have back problems, you know, because of like how like certain angles I do, you know, it's like, or like my knees are like hurting me, you know, it's like I'm turning 28 in a couple weeks, you know, it's like, and I'm like, my knees are hurting me, but I'm still doing this, you know, it's like, and I'm still doing it 100%, you know, it's like, even though sometimes I'm in pain, but I'm like, no, you know, it's like I have to work hard no matter what. So,
well, it shows because you take you take amazing clips, and it's been recognized, you know, all over the world by fans, by wrestlers. So thank you again for your content. Thank you again so much for your time and taking the time to speak with us on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Do not forget, listeners, to follow Wrestling with Unicorns on social media. You are truly missing out on something if you're not following them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And of course, we are your team here at the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, bringing you everything you need to know in the world of Lucha Libre. For Dusty Murphy and Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to check out the show on luchacentral.com and all your favorite podcast streaming platforms, as well as our partners at thechairshot.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will be with you next time. And that is it for this week's edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. Again, a very big thank you to Martin Carillo from Wrestling with Unicorns for joining us on this week's episode and sharing his stories and experiences with us. Please make sure you check out Wrestling with Unicorns to get some amazing clips of independent wrestling happening all over the United States. But also don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. You can also check out Lucha Central at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at luchacentralcom on Twitter. You can also check out Lucha Central's YouTube page that has hours upon hours of exclusive content like interviews and matches, just stuff that you can't find anywhere else. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy, and I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And I'm all over the Twitters, which today I'm going to use to say support your referees, because that's trending right now. So if you've got a local referee, just shout them out on Twitter when you hear this, and let's keep it going.
Yes. And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda, hashtag spelled out, on Instagram and Facebook. And again, thank you all so much for listening and joining us on this week's episode. Don't forget, if you are listening through your favorite podcast streaming platform like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and much, much more, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe so you get notifications every time a new episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast drops. You can leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Let us know what you think of the show, or just reach out to us on social media as well and let us know what you think of the show. Also, a big shout out to our partners at thechairshot.com who also distribute this show. So make sure you check out thechairshot.com, your source for wrestling news, analysis, sports entertainment. For Dusty Murphy and Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back with you next week.